why don't we first start with momentum? That sounds like a good idea, because
Sure.
momentum is obviously going to be referenced in Blitz. I was just looking at that, and as well as a number of other abilities. And momentum is essentially a class energy system. Is that right, Chad?
That is correct.
Talk to me about momentum.
Yeah, I'll go into a little more detail about that. So one thing that we feel adds a lot to just class identity in general is something that is beyond just an ability. In this case, it's a class, or in this case, an archetype resource called combat momentum. So in your top left of the screen here, you'll see that you've got your standard health bar and your mana bar, and then a third empty bar that you'll see kind of build up in combat as we play, that you build up through all the different actions that you're doing through the kit. And you can use this resource to get passive power to your character based on which form you are in, which we'll get into it in a little bit here. And you can also spend it for certain unique, especially powerful bonuses.
Let us talk a little bit about Blitz. What is Blitz as an ability?
Yeah, Blitz is your gap closer, your bread and butter gap closer. You pick a target and you charge to the target. There's also a spec option that interacts with the resource if you choose it, that generates some combat momentum, so it lets you kind of open the encounter with a little bit of resource to start.
Okay, so I'm gonna charge the target directly, and I'm gonna deal damage on arrival, which is physical based, and this spec option says that it generates 20 additional combat momentum. Cool. All right, let's take a look at this. Ooh, nice. So we have Brutal Cleave.
Yep, this is probably your most bread and butter AoE attack. You can... It does a medium amount of damage. It's not one of your more spectacular AoEs, but it's your primary AoE resource generator, so you're going to be using this a lot to build your momentum. And you also weave this a lot between your weapon combos, because your weapon attack finishers will reset seconds off of this cooldown. So if you're like going back and forth between cleaves and weapon attacks, you get to do more of them and have more uptime. If we want to just jump over to that one, that's the single target counterpart to this attack. It's just a single target hit, but it is a shorter cooldown, so you can reset them more frequently, and it's also generating your resource. So it kind of, you're choosing which one to use based on what your enemies are.
Talk to me a little bit about main.
So this is a more powerful AoE attack in the kit, and then we'll just kind of look at the base effect.
Okay.
So this is just a cone in front of you. You're hitting in a cone in front of you. It's pretty heavy hitter. You're not resetting the cooldown of this, so you need to be more aware of when you're using this. But it also has the added effect of it will do more damage against recently tripped enemies. So that's where you really want to save this, is if you've tripped someone, or if someone else has tripped an enemy, you capitalize on it by basically smashing down on them with this.
Let's spec into the projectile. Now this is going to give you obviously a lot more range. Oh! Oh.
This adds a piercing projectile on top of the attack, so you're still getting that frontal AoE hitbox that's staying the same, but you're adding a projectile on top of it. And so I love this as an AoE opener. What it does a few things. One, it riles your allies, specifically your party members. It will also apply a status effect called Shaken to your enemies. And then it will generate a certain amount of combat momentum per ally that you riled. And then just to elaborate, because people are like, what is Shaken? What is riled? Well, Shaken right now is a debuff on enemies that whenever they take damage, they have a small chance to become tripped. So there's some good combos with this where like you go into like a multi-hit AoE and you can capitalize on that. And then by triggering trip status, that flows into maim really well. So that's one of the combos I like to do, is shout into like a whirlwind, which you'll see in a bit, into maim to do extra damage against targets that have. Whirlwind is actually pretty close to what it's always been. It's an AoE channeled attack that ramps up in speed the longer you hold it. There's also a spec option on the right if you want to pick that. That gives a final upward swing at the end. That has some additional bonuses to it.
Okay. So let's do it without the spec first. All right, cool. Got it. So let me spec now into the option that I could invest additional points into this particular skill if I wanted to give myself a finishing blow, essentially. Oh, nice. Okay.
So you get a big hit at the end.
Cataclysm is another one that we saw a while ago. What's changed with Cataclysm?
Yeah, a lot has changed with this one. It used to be like this big like hammer that would appear over your head, and then it hit like an AoE kind of far away from you. Overall, it ended up feeling a little awkward to use. We wanted to turn this more into like your big frontal AoE damage. So this is like the other end of the spectrum, like stronger than Maim. It's just a big ultimate like AoE attack essentially. It's pretty straightforward.
Let us showcase that new Cataclysm. Oh, that feels much better. All right, next up we have Rupture.
Yep, so this is an interesting one. It's a single target attack, and it puts a temporary debuff on your target where if they are moving, while that effect is on them, they will build up wounded stacks. We can talk about this as effect in a moment here, but at the end of it,
the fact that he should have like literally 0 blood pressure remaining after rupturing that much blood. Oh
sure,
my God.
We can build in that mechanic. But also you'll notice at the end of it, he takes a big hit of damage, and the idea is that damage will scale with how much wound they have on them. So this will have kind of some inter-synergy going on with itself.
Crippling blow.
Yeah, sure. So crippling blow, this one's pretty simple. This is a standard single target snare. So a pretty common combo you'd use is like blitz into a crippling blow if you're like getting on top of a target that's trying to kite you.
Lethal blow.
This is another one of my favorites. This is the execute of the kit. It's single target as well, but the lower health they are, the harder it's going to hit. So this is really like you're trying to do as much damage with your other abilities as possible, and then when you get them like within that kill threshold, you're just gonna hit them with this, hope for a crit maybe, and finish them off. Use it. There you go.
Oh my God. We got blood fusion.
Yeah, so kind of like that lethal blow spec we were using, this is another way for the fighter to get health and mana back to itself. And if you pop this, it's a big cooldown. But for the next 6 seconds, any damage you do will have a % returned as health and mana to you.
Okay. So somebody nuke me for like 500.
You can go ahead, Shred.
Okay, I don't want to do it all at once.
Multiple 500s, like 3 500s.
There you go.
All right, and then I am going to deal some damage here to see how much I get back.
Yep, so that last hit missed the window, but you got a good chunk from your other attacks.
Let's go to lunging assault.
Yeah, so this is like going to be one of your first spenders of your resource. This spender is more for mobility. It's a smaller spender, but whenever you use this, you will dash forward a short distance and do an attack at the end. And it's pretty freely usable. It doesn't have a very long cooldown. It's just spending your resource. So the more resource you're generating, the more you're able to kind of reposition and dash around the battlefield and get some extra damage out there.
Okay, let's try this. There we go. And now I don't need a target for this. I can just kind of...
Nope, freely. It's a reposition.
Alright. That's cool. Oh, okay. Leap strike.
Yeah, so this is the most free
look at
mobile
that distance.
Yeah, it's very far, and it doesn't require a target, unlike Blitz. And you're also going to basically deal damage and AoE around it. So it's just a more powerful but less frequently usable gap closer / opener if you even decide to use it as an opener.
Oh my god! I am the Juggernaut! I am playing a Renkai, so ferocity sounds good. Ooh.
All right. So now you'll notice in the top left here, he is in this form. So as long as you don't change forms, you will permanently remain in the form of ferocity. We actually renamed this recently, so you'll see Tempest there, but that went through a rename. So while in this form, your momentum will increase your attack speed the higher your momentum is. So for every point of momentum that you've got, your attack speed's going up. So you're basically ramping up that attack speed as you generate. Form of celerity here.
All right, and that is on Shafi.
There you go. Now run around. You might have to blitz him again. You probably need to get some mana and then build it up a little more. But
oh, my bad. We get mana.
But this one increases your movement speed, so this lets you just move around the battlefield a lot more nimbly. So if you need to close the gap a little bit and your gap closers are on cooldown or whatever, this is a good way of traversing the field a bit faster. Form of fluidity. And while you're in it, you are much more difficult to be CC'd. So you'll be more resistant to stuns, to roots, trips, pretty much anything that falls into the CC category. So if we go over here in the skill tree to the left, Exert, this is a very high cost, very high payoff, essentially super mode that you can go into, and you're rapidly spending your momentum while you're in this form. It's all or nothing. You can't turn it off. Once you pop this, you will stay in this mode until your momentum is fully drained, and then you're going to have to build it all the way back up again. Meanwhile, you're getting increased attack speed. You're getting CC immunity, and whatever else it says in here.
We've got 20% increased attack and movement speed, and immunity to disabling effects while active.
Alright, hold still.
I just keep this going all the time. I got no cooldowns.
Yeah. Now we're cheating.
That is so good. Oh, it's so good. Very cool. All right, well, that is a very, let me just say, I'm sorry, let me speak on behalf of what I assume is our audience saying, holy shit.